why should we budget for 2024? What is the big deal about budgeting? Let's get into it. What in the world are we doing talking about budgeting for the entire year? I don't understand. Well, you can go back to our previous video and watch how 2023 we budgeted, and Mike had several examples of where budgeting for the year saved him potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars. So why in the world, Mike, are we talking about budgeting for a whole year? Why would we want to budget for 2024?
We have talked about it in multiple videos, but budgeting or cash flow planning, or if you just want to simply track your income and expenses, whatever feels right for you and however you do it, the reasons are there. The studies have been shown that you are in more control. You don't lose money. Money just doesn't disappear and go off over here to this person or this item or this whatever. So this is why it's important and why Jason and I have chosen to continue to do this every single year. Yeah. Me personally, this marks the 15th year that I've been budgeting. 15 years. In the beginning, I sucked. I was no good. I didn't know what I was doing. I think I know what I was doing, but then I come find out 3 months later, I didn't. I wasn't accurate with how much I was actually spending on food. This is what I actually spend. And then my relationship status changes, right? My wife and I were now married. So now we have 2 people in the household. So now we have to account for that. I've spent exactly $0 on haircuts for my entire life. But now my budget includes that because my wife gets haircuts. She gets manicures. She does the things that I don't do, but it has to be included in the budget because we work as a team. So that's one of the reasons, many of the reasons that we are going to budget for 2024.
Yeah. So that's so interesting. One of the things that I know immediately just from talking to people in my own life, even if I weren't a financial coach helping people with their budgets, I would know that budgeting helps you make different decisions. Budgeting and tracking and all the things, like it helps you make a different decision than you would if you had no clue what your money was doing, where it was going, what you were spending it on. Like if you picture your life, and if you have ever struggled with money, and we'll talk about this in a minute, of the stages of money and the different places that you've been. But if you think about it, most of the world, at least the North American world, struggles with living paycheck to paycheck, right? We have a lot of debt. We have all these wasted spending areas, right? So we're thinking about wasted spending. Everybody's got areas of wasted spending, even experts, even people who have been budgeting for decades. It doesn't mean that we don't ever have financial problems. It doesn't ever mean that we have everything like cookie cutter and it's all perfect and it goes smoothly. We have plenty of months and plenty of weeks and plenty of days that are roller coasters financially. And 2023 was that for me. I had an unexpected move across the continent. It just happens. That costs thousands and thousands of dollars that I had to figure out, okay, what are we doing here? How are we going to manage this? Budgeting helped me make those decisions and then figure out where do I need to actually change something in order to have this bigger priority that just popped up to happen. Like that's what budgeting does for us. And so that's why we need to be intentional going into a new year saying, I'm going to figure out what does this year look like? And that's like the general picture, but you have to plan for unexpected things to happen. And so if you don't plan on some of those things, the wasted spending just keeps going. And then you find yourself 1 year later, 1 year older, back in the same position, if not worse than where you were the year before. That's what budgeting does. That's why we go into it, to be intentional, to try and plan as much as we can, not being rigid, but to say, how am I moving forward and having that trajectory toward the ideal life that I really want to live? So, Mike, talk about the stages of really being in a position of scarcity and bad situation to overflow and amazingness when it comes to financial. Like, what are some of those stages that we've talked about before?
Well, when I started 15 years ago, I was in that disorganization, living paycheck to paycheck. Every single penny had a name because I was up to my eyes in debt. And when I first got started, my first time I did this, I had my net worth was negative $100,000. Right. So I had to climb out of a six-figure hole. And the best way that I found out of research, reading, and doing was through budgeting. I had to tell the money where to go because it kept leaving me and created this big debt hole that I was in. So you may be in that. And it took me 2 to 3 years. I got to zero. And then it got to positive $100,000, right? My net worth. And I haven't stopped budgeting because if you do, you have the potential to start going down again, right? Or maybe you just stay even, right? You just plateau. But because of budgeting and doing these things, my net worth has grown every single year positively, except for 1 year in those 15 years. And I do that every January 1st, which is relevant for what we're talking about. What are we doing for 2024? And that's what I started with just this morning. I've been writing down some of these things, these dreams, these goals, and it's very relevant to the budget. Meaning, if I want to do this, but it costs $10,000, well, okay, well, I've got to figure out how to have that be created in my budget. Is it through income or is it through reduced expenses? Because that's the only way to do it, right? You can either increase your income or decrease your expenses, usually both, but you've got to have a plan for your life and a plan for your money because they're intertwined. Everything touches, money touches nearly every aspect of our lives. And this is why we encourage you to do this every single year.
Yeah. And that's really important to remember that in these stages where, so let's lay out a few of them. You can make very little money and struggle with money. You can make medium income and struggle with money. You can make high income and struggle with money. And in fact, you'd be surprised at the statistics on how many people make multiple six figures and are still struggling with money. So income doesn't necessarily equal whether you're doing poorly with money or whether you're doing really well with money. You have to remember that. One of the top wealth people in North America are actually what we would consider low to mid incomes. So teachers are really high on the wealth side of things, of like $1 million net worth, for example, when they retire, but they never make hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. They make a moderate to low. In fact, the reputation of teachers are they're not ever paid well. So if you think about teachers making 30, 40, 50, $60,000 for the entire career and how they become millionaires when they retire, that doesn't make sense when we say, well, how can you save, millions of dollars when you only make 40 or $50,000 a year? How does that happen? It's not the income. It's the mindset. It's the practices they put in place. Okay. And then on the flip side, there is the you're doing really well with money. There are people that make very low incomes that are doing well with money because they're organized, they're intentional, right? They have a plan. There are people who are mid-level income doing really well with money. And then there are people who have high incomes who are doing really well with money. So it's not really the income piece. It's actually the practices that you put in place, which is why we come to this subject of budgeting. When we talk about budgeting, being intentional, having a plan, right? That's the key. It's not how much money you make. Now, the more money you make, the more options you have, which is great, but it is about this plan. And so those are the stages. And you can be in any one of those, let's say 6 stages, but which one do you want to be in? Right? Sometimes we want to be in that high income and we're doing very well with money, but it doesn't always work that way. It starts with that plan, and you can move from stage to stage however you want, depending on what you do, but you have to be intentional about your life.
Yep, I agree. And I personally have never filed taxes on 6 figures in my entire life, and I've become a millionaire in my 30s. You can do it too. It needs time and discipline. On the flip side, like Jason's saying, I've had a client making $1 million a year file bankruptcy, complete disorganization, $50,000 parties, right? Like just spending money like it's water because it came in easy to him. And he thought, okay, I can just out earn my stupidity, which eventually catches up to you. This is one of the most important things that we think when it comes to finances is that you should be in control, and you are the person to be in control. And you've got to do that by telling your money what to do.
Yeah. I think, and the best thing is we want to make sure that you're not only looking toward the long-term future. We totally need to look for that. But we don't make this decision based on, okay, well, I want $10 million in the year. And you can watch other videos that we have about all this stuff. But the idea here is just try this month. Just make the decision. Decide today, okay, I need to change something, right? If you want a different result, you need to change something. So what are we going to do this month to try to get organized at least a little bit so that we can save a little bit of money this month? And then do it again. And then do it again. And you'll get better and better and better. And you're going to save more and more and more. And you're going to be able to do more things with your life and your investing and your saving and all of those things. But you have to start somewhere. So you might as well start right now and say, all right, what are my expenses? What are my income? Like, what do we need to do? So jump into our other videos about all the budgeting and everything you need to do, but just make a little bit of progress. Don't try to jump, 0 to 100 like right now. Just start moving forward. And then you'll start making progress. And then it'll be easier and easier as you move forward. All right, Mike, anything else before we end?
One more thing to close out this video. If you've made it this far, congratulations. Thank you. And check out the link below for both Jason and Mai's budgeting course that goes into extreme detail on how to implement this going forward. When we'll put a discount code in there for a free 30 days for each of those courses as well. So enjoy that and see you in the next lesson.